Clairvoyance, the ability to perceive realities beyond the physical senses, is often romanticized as a hallmark of spiritual evolution. Yet in truth, it is not the cause of spiritual growth, but more often a byproduct of inner development. It can manifest in various forms: visions, intuitive insights, energetic perception, but it is not, in itself, a reliable indicator of spiritual maturity. Some sincere spiritual seekers progress deeply along the path of inner transformation without ever experiencing clairvoyant phenomena. They cultivate presence, compassion, humility, and inner stillness, the true hallmarks of the awakened soul. On the other hand, there are those who possess vivid psychic abilities yet lack the moral refinement, emotional intelligence, or spiritual integrity required to wield such gifts with wisdom. In many cases, clairvoyant abilities are remnants from past incarnations, tools carried forward without the full consciousness needed to use them responsibly. When unaccompanied by self-awareness or ethical grounding, these abilities can easily foster pride, illusion, or a false sense of superiority. Spiritual vision, when genuine, emerges not through force but through purification of motive and mind. It arises naturally when the inner world is clear, quiet, and attuned to higher truths. Therefore, clairvoyance should not be pursued as a goal, but recognized, if it arises, as a tool. A subtle reflection of inner clarity, not a substitute for it. 1. The misconception of psychic powers as a goal. In today's world, where mystical concepts are often commercialized and spirituality is sometimes reduced to spectacle, many are drawn to psychic abilities, particularly clairvoyance, as a sign of spiritual superiority or a shortcut to happiness. The allure is understandable. Who wouldn't be intrigued by the idea of perceiving hidden truths, glimpsing the future, or reading unseen energies? Yet this desire often originates from the ego, not the soul. True spiritual evolution is not marked by the acquisition of powers, but by the transcendence of desire itself. When the pursuit of clairvoyance, or other psychic gifts becomes a goal in itself, it can actually hinder the deeper process of awakening. Rather than freeing us, it can entangle us further in illusion, feeding pride, reinforcing separation, and distracting us from the real work of inner transformation. Spiritual growth is not about gaining power. It is about dissolving the illusion of control. It asks us to surrender the need to be special, to release attachment to recognition, and to enter into a more humble, receptive relationship with the divine. This is why so many true mystics and sages, even when they possess extraordinary abilities, use them sparingly and with great discernment, if at all. In the Sufi tradition, there is a profound concept called kashf, meaning unveiling. Unlike clairvoyance rooted in curiosity or egoic will, kashf is not something one strives for. It cannot be forced or learned through technique. Rather, it is a grace that arises through sincere devotion, discipline, and the purification of the heart. It is knowledge received through direct inner experience, not of the mind, but of the soul. Kashf is the result of sustained spiritual struggle, what Sufis call mujahada, a long journey of detachment from ego, healing of the inner self, and alignment with divine will. Only when the heart becomes clear and still, freed from greed, arrogance, and distraction, can divine truth gently reveal itself. And even then, the true mystic never clings to the vision. They see it only as a signpost on the path, not the destination itself. This distinction is critical. Many individuals may exhibit psychic talents, some even from birth, but this does not necessarily indicate spiritual maturity. Powers may be remnants from past lives, dormant aspects of the human potential, or simply the result of sensitivity. Without inner refinement and the moral compass to guide their use, such abilities can easily mislead both the individual and others. Real spiritual work is not glamorous. It is often silent, challenging, and invisible. It is the work of inner humility, compassion, service, and surrender. The fruits of this work, clarity, peace, wisdom, may or may not be accompanied by psychic insight. But they will always bring us closer to our true essence. In the end, the greatest power is not to see what others cannot, it is to live with love, walk with integrity, and surrender to what is greater than oneself. 2. 3 levels of spiritual revelation. In the esoteric traditions across mysticism, Sufism, and metaphysical philosophy, spiritual revelation is not a singular experience, it occurs across distinct levels of inner awakening. These levels reflect both the maturity of the soul and the quality of inner purification. They range from intuitive impressions to direct encounters with divine reality. A. Revelation through creation, cardiac gnosis. This level emerges through disciplined purification of the lower self, through worship, self-restraint, and virtuous living. When the heart becomes refined and still, the veils thin. Inner perception awakens, and the individual begins to receive messages through dreams, symbolic visions, and moments of deep intuitive clarity. This is often called cardiac gnosis, or knowing through the heart. Here, one may glimpse the hidden patterns of creation or perceive truths normally concealed from ordinary senses. Yet, these gifts are not pursued. They arrive naturally when the ego dissolves and the soul aligns with divine order. B. Revelation through reason. This form of revelation, while subtle and powerful, is considered the lowest of the three. It is accessible to philosophers, scholars, and contemplatives who engage in deep moral reflection. Through disciplined reasoning and ethical refinement, the mind pierces illusion and approaches truth. While lacking the spiritual intimacy of higher levels, this form of knowledge carries a quiet nobility. It is the intellect purified by virtue. However, without surrender, it can remain abstract and disconnected from transcendental experience. C. Revelation through faith. This is the highest and most sacred form, achieved not through intellect or even effort, but through proximity to divine reality. It arises in those with unwavering faith, deep humility, and hearts surrendered to love of the Absolute. At this level, communion with spiritual intelligences becomes possible. The individual may receive divine addresses, visions of angelic realms, or even spiritual dialogue with prophets. This level is rare, and always accompanied by profound moral beauty and self-erasure. Here, revelation is no longer symbolic or indirect, it is a direct echo from the source. At every level, psychic gifts like clairvoyance or telepathy may arise, but they are never the goal. They are the fragrance, not the flower. The true aim is transformation of the self into something capable of bearing truth with humility. 3. Clairvoyance and brainwave states. Clairvoyance, the ability to perceive realities beyond the 5 physical senses, is not a mystical accident, but a refined skill that depends on the quality of one's consciousness. While often romanticized, true clairvoyance demands both discipline and inner stillness. One of the most effective ways to access this expanded perception is through specific brainwave states, particularly alpha and theta. A. Alpha brainwave state 8 to 12 Hz. This state is where the veil between the conscious and subconscious begins to thin. The alpha state arises during light meditation, moments of calm reflection, or the gentle drift of daydreaming. In this frequency, the mind is relaxed but alert, allowing for heightened creativity, visual imagery, and spontaneous intuitive insight. It's in this quiet openness that many people first begin to experience clairvoyant impressions, sudden flashes of inner vision, symbolic images, or gut-level truths. Think of alpha as the doorway, a gentle, stable bridge that links the physical with the non-physical. B. Theta brainwave state 4 to 7 Hz. The theta state takes us deeper, into the sacred space between waking and sleeping. It is the frequency of deep meditation, of early morning visions, and of access to archetypal memory. In theta, individuals may encounter vivid clairvoyant imagery, visit spiritual realms, or recall past life fragments. It is the wellspring of inner knowing, but unlike alpha, theta is more difficult to navigate with full awareness. Many lose consciousness as they drop too deeply, entering a dreamlike trance. For those developing clairvoyant abilities, the goal is not simply to access these states, but to learn how to hover between them, balancing the intuitive richness of theta with the alert clarity of alpha. This skill is similar to the discipline used in lucid dreaming or advanced meditation, where the practitioner learns to remain awake within the dream. With regular practice, Using breathwork, guided meditations, or sound frequencies like binaural beats, one can begin to intentionally shift into these brainwave states and maintain a thread of conscious presence. Over time, this develops the inner eye, not just to see, but to interpret and trust what is seen. Ultimately, clairvoyance is not about escapism or spectacle. It is the art of deep seeing, born from inner quiet and vibrational alignment. By working with brainwave states, the practitioner becomes both the receiver and the translator of subtle information, bridging the unseen with the seen. 4. Visualization, vision, and symbolism. In the realm of spiritual development, it is essential to discern the difference between visualization and vision. While they may appear similar on the surface, both involving inner imagery, their origin, purpose, and spiritual significance are profoundly distinct. Visualization, the conscious tool. Visualization is an intentional act of imagination. It's the mind's ability to construct images, scenarios, or symbols with purpose and focus. Used deliberately, visualization strengthens inner clarity, enhances focus, and attunes one's perception to subtle energies. It is especially useful in practices like guided meditation, energy healing, and manifestation work. When we visualize consciously, whether picturing a healing light, a protective sphere, or an ideal outcome, we are training the mind to become more receptive. It is mental rehearsal combined with spiritual intent. Over time, this practice clears the mental noise and sharpens the channels of inner awareness, making space for something deeper to arise. Vision, the spontaneous arrival. A vision, by contrast, is not created, it is received. It arises unbidden, often in altered states of consciousness such as deep meditation, dreams, or moments of spiritual openness. Unlike imagination, visions carry a distinct energy. They feel alive, autonomous, and emotionally resonant. They are often imbued with symbolic messages, sometimes accompanied by a felt sense of truth or sacredness. Visions come from beyond the ego mind. Some may originate from the higher self, while others may be subtle transmissions from spiritual intelligences or the collective unconscious. They serve as guideposts, mirrors, or invitations into deeper understanding. But they are rarely literal. Their power lies in symbolism. Symbolism, the language of the soul. Visions often speak in the language of archetypes and symbols. A white bird, a burning tree, a spiral staircase. Each may hold unique meaning depending on the individual's path, emotions, or cultural background. These symbols don't always translate into direct logic. Instead, they are meant to stir the intuitive mind and awaken insight from within. To interpret visions wisely, one must cultivate self-awareness and humility. Ask, what does this mean to me? What emotions did I feel? What truth might this be pointing toward? Ultimately, visualization prepares the inner canvas. Vision paints upon it. When combined with meditation, devotion, and self-inquiry, they become powerful instruments of revelation and transformation. 5. Dreams and the subconscious. Dreams are not mere fragments of random thought or meaningless illusions of the sleeping mind. They are profound gateways to the subconscious and reflections of the soul. In the dream state, our conscious defenses relax, allowing the deeper layers of our psyche to communicate through imagery, emotion, and symbolic narrative. Each dream we experience holds within it the possibility of insight. The subconscious speaks in metaphors and archetypes, symbols that bypass logical reasoning and speak directly to our intuition. A locked door may represent a part of the self we have not yet accessed. Falling could symbolize a fear of losing control. Flying might reveal a longing for freedom or transcendence. These meanings are not universal. They are deeply personal, shaped by one's life, emotions, and spiritual state. To unlock the wisdom of dreams, one must begin by paying attention, keeping a dream journal, noting recurring symbols, emotional tones, and patterns. Over time, this dedicated observation allows the symbolic language of the subconscious to become more familiar and intelligible. Dreams then transform from passive events into active guides, revealing what needs to be healed, acknowledged, or integrated. This dream work is not merely introspective, it's spiritually preparatory. True psychic insight requires a foundation of self-awareness. To perceive beyond the veil of the physical world, we must first pierce the veil within ourselves. Otherwise, psychic impressions may be colored, or even distorted, by unresolved fears, unrecognized desires, or unconscious biases. In this way, the subconscious mind is like a mirror. But that mirror must be cleaned and polished to reflect truth clearly. Without the effort of inner purification, even the most vivid dreams or psychic impressions may be misinterpreted or misused. Through conscious dream work, meditation, and honest self-inquiry, the seeker gradually refines the inner lens. Psychic abilities, then, emerge not as mysterious powers, but as natural extensions of a deepening clarity within. Dreams are sacred messengers. They offer glimpses into the soul's landscape, providing clues from the hidden realms of memory, karma, and even divine inspiration. By honoring them, decoding their language, and integrating their wisdom, we become more attuned, not only to ourselves, but to the subtle energies and truths that surround us. The path to inner sight. Clairvoyance is often misunderstood, romanticized as a mystical power or mistaken for an end in itself. But in truth, it is not a gift to be chased or a badge of spiritual superiority. It is a natural unfolding, the quiet fruit of deep inner transformation. One cannot force open the doors of higher perception through technique alone. Clairvoyant insight emerges gradually, through self-discipline, devotion, and a sincere desire to know truth, not for power, but for liberation. It is not learned from books, nor granted without purpose. It must be earned through alignment. To begin or deepen this path, the seeker must first purify the inner vessel. This means engaging in honest self-examination, releasing attachments, and confronting the illusions of the ego. Emotional healing, moral clarity, and humility are not optional. They are the foundation of genuine inner sight. In parallel, the cultivation of altered states of consciousness becomes vital. Meditation, breath work, and visualization act as bridges, guiding the mind into the subtle states where intuitive perception awakens. Yet without grounded intention and ethical clarity, even these practices can mislead. Dream work, too, becomes a powerful ally. By exploring the subconscious terrain, we begin to understand our deeper patterns, wounds, and symbols. Each dream becomes a lesson in self-awareness. Over time, this self-awareness creates a mental stillness that allows true perception, not filtered through projection, but revealed in clarity. Above all, it is essential to remember this: clairvoyance is not the destination. It is merely a milestone, a whisper of what becomes possible when the mind, heart, and soul come into alignment. The real path is not to see visions, but to live in truth. Not to accumulate powers, but to embody compassion, service, and wisdom. Those who become fixated on ability may lose sight of the path itself. But those who walk in humility, who seek divine union more than psychic insight, these are the ones who truly begin to see. The path to inner sight is not easy, but it is sacred. It demands courage, presence, and faith. It calls you inward, again and again, not to escape the world, but to perceive it more clearly. To sense the subtle rhythms behind form. To listen for the voice of the soul in the silence. In the end, clairvoyance is not about seeing more, it's about being more whole, more awake, more attuned to the divine that lives in all things.